Not all photos look great. The last thing you want in a portrait photo is pimples, bruises, or other facial markings becoming a distraction. The good news is Photoshop can easily remove those blemishes, and the better news is we can show you how. Photoshop can work wonders for your photos. It can remove backgrounds and change colors with ease. It's like having a magic wand. So let's use this Photoshop magic to make those facial blemishes disappear.
Stop zapping yourself! Stop zapping yourself! Stop zapping yourself!
But before we begin, if you don't already have Photoshop, go and check out the links below to buy the app for the best price. So after you've brought your photo into Photoshop, we'll first create an adjustment layer. So go to your Layers panel, click on the Adjustment Layers button and select Black and White. Now, as the name implies, a black and white layer of the photo will be created. Now don't worry, we're not going to keep the photo like this. We're not going for that old TV show look. So go and find the colors slider in the adjustment layer properties and turn down the reds. When you decrease the amount of red, the blemishes should become more visible. The level of red, well, that depends on the skin tone you're working with. So play around a little bit with the slider until you can see the dark blemishes. Be sure to try turning up the blues and yellows for better visibility. We'll create a new layer below the adjustment layer and above our photo. This will be our layer for blemishes, so name it accordingly. A blemish layer or a layer of blemishes, or call it whatever you want. Now, let's select the healing brush tool from the toolbar. It should look like a band-aid. We know what you're thinking. Well, how can we possibly use a healing brush tool on an empty layer? Shouldn't we select the photo layer? Well, here's the trick with this. In the healing tool options at the top of the screen, we'll see the sample drop-down menu. From this menu, select Current and Below. This mode will recognize the photo layer below. Now comes the part when the healing can begin. Hold Control or Command and click on the clear part of the skin you want to sample. After selecting a good sample area, you can start painting over the blemishes. Release Control or Command and start painting on the blemishes. They should start vanishing and be replaced with the clear skin that we sampled. It's like using a magical version of Oxy.
Oxy Tinted Treatment conceals while it helps heal.
Now, the sampling might need some improvement and you may have to try it out on a few sample areas. Experiment with the tool for a bit so the healing looks more natural. The last thing you want is the blemish removal to look like a copy-pasted patch of skin. That just doesn't match. But now why do we need a separate layer for these changes? Well, that's quite simple. If you don't like a blemish change you've made and want to remove it, you can just erase it from this layer. There's no need for sampling again or having to start over. Just click the blemishes layer, select the erase tool, and undo any cosmetic changes that you've made. If you've been using Photoshop for some time, you might notice that the healing brush tool works the same way as the clone stamp tool. It might have crossed your mind that you could just as well use the clone stamp tool instead. And you know what? Yeah, you'd be right. We can use the clone stamp tool for removing blemishes the same way we use the healing brush. The exact same process applies here as well. Sample an area while holding Control or Command and then paint over the blemishes. Also, be sure you have the sample selection set to current and below. If it's at the current layer, you won't affect the photo layer below. If it's at all layers, then the black and white layer will bleed into the photo with the blemishes. Then it really will look like you're painting a Pleasantville scene. Another tool you can use for this task of blemish removal is the Smart Healing Brush tool. Now, this tool works similarly to the Healing Brush tool, but with a few automated differences. Specifically, the Smart Brush attempts to make better guesses on what to sample. So, to use this tool, select your blemish layer and choose the Smart Healing Brush tool from the toolbar. Make sure that the Sample All Layers checkbox is checked in the tool's properties at the top of the screen. Now start drawing over the blemishes. As you draw, the tool should start to pick up on how the skin should look. Now, while this brush works well enough, it's not perfect. It can make some errors in recognizing the correct healing path and even leave some little smudges. However, if you've got some time, it can be worth experimenting with. That being said, it is not recommended over the healing tool brush, given the lack of control over sampling. So it's not as smart as you may think. The other option to consider for blemish removal is the patch tool. Now, this tool works differently from the other methods because we'll need to use a copy, not a separate layer. So to start using the patch tool, create a copy of the photo and select that copy. Now go and find the patch tool in your toolbar. It should be housed within the same area as the healing tool and look like a sewed-on patch. The patch tool works similarly to the selection tool, as it can draw an area to patch. To use this tool, zoom into a blemished area and draw around it with the patch tool. Once the blemish is selected, hold the Shift key and notice how the cursor has a plus sign. You can select another blemished area when you hold down the Shift key. Keep doing this until you've got all the blemishes selected. With all the selections, you can now click and drag the patches to highlight an area of clear skin. Now, this can be a handy way to make patching skin over multiple blemished areas quick. Press Ctrl or Command and D to finish the patching. It's recommended to do this process with a copy of your photo, and this way you have a backup on hand and then can compare the contrast with the patches you've made. Finally, there's the most advanced feature for getting rid of blemishes. The skin smoothing feature is a neural filter that can automatically detect and smooth rough skin. To use this filter, navigate to Filter in the top bar and select Neural Filters. From the menu of Neural Filters listed, find Skin Smoothing. Click Download to download the filter and it should install quite promptly. Once installed, use the blur and smoothness sliders to change how the skin will look in the photo. Depending on the photo, the blemishes may start disappearing. The best part is that this filter can recognize multiple faces in a photo, so it is ideal for fixing group photos. Now, this filter isn't perfect, we know, but it does work at getting rid of more minor blemishes. It's also worth trying out just because of its easy use. The only big problem is that you can't use this filter to single out specific blemishes you want to remove. It is still a smart tool.
S-M-R-T, I mean S-M-A-R-T.
Just, not that smart. So let's run down the various ways to remove blemishes in Photoshop. The healing tool is reliable for sampling clear skin and placing it over blemishes. The clone stamp tool can perform the same function as the healing tool and is a solid alternative. The smart healing tool can work faster at sampling, but can be prone to unwanted smudges and require a bit of extra work to fix the borders of blemished areas. The patch tool is a fast way to make a lot of blemishes go away incredibly fast. The skin smoothing filter is also a fast method, but is only recommended for those small blemishes, and it doesn't let you select specific areas to target. Well, that about wraps up this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe for more videos on Photoshop tutorials and, of course, those features. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.